Well, Lucy, I'm coming to you live from CIO here at the Radisson Blue, where we're just discussing some of the things that are concerned with the internet, with the IoT, or what you'll otherwise call the Internet of Things and AI. Well, with me right now, I'm joined by one of the guys from Microsoft who will be trying to explain to us some of the things that they are working on and also give us a broader perspective on the Internet of Things. Well, welcome. Maybe we can start by you introducing yourself.
Thank you very much. My name is Kellington Kituku. I work for Microsoft East Africa. I look after the public sector business in Kenya.
Maybe we can start by the Internet of Things. We are living at a time where everything is generally connected. We are when you speak to someone here, they can get it wherever they are. And you being a company that has been in the industry for a very long time, maybe you can give us some of the things that you have seen that are happening differently, that are exciting to speak of.
Okay, so when you start to talk about Internet of Things, as much as in 2019, this is when you're starting to hear about it. Internet of Things has been here with us for a very long time, because Internet of Things basically refers to any device or component that has the ability to collect and to transmit data. So when you start to think about it as of 2015, there was about 3.8 billion Internet of Things, and what we call things, sort of devices. And this is not counting computers or mobile phones. In 2018, right now, we are looking at about 7 billion devices in the world. And by 2022, it's estimated we're going to be at about 20 to 25 billion devices. So just looking at that growth, you can tell that Internet of Things did not just happen. So it's really been with us. So when we start to look at Internet of Things, we want to think about it in terms of how can it help in terms of what we call digital transformation. And at Microsoft, we think about digital transformation in four things. How do we empower our citizens? How do we engage, for example, how can government engage its citizens? How can they improve their processes, and how can they improve the services they give to their citizens? So when you look at some of the biggest challenges we have in Africa, the first one is food security. And even as part of the government's agenda, one of the things they're thinking about is how do they ensure that there's food security in Kenya. So with Internet of Things, one of the things that you're able to do, and you can see from our project here, which is called Around Farm Bits, is how you can actually enable farmers to know for example, what's the moisture content of the soil. So that enables you to know when do we need to water, all right? Some things like what is the acidity or alkaline levels of the soil. So when you're able to measure that, you can know what types of fertilizer do I need to apply. So when you look at Internet of Things, it's able to help us in terms of monitor what are the environmentals that go into farming, to ensure that you can get the maximum output in terms of when you put your seed on the ground. And this is a very good thing for farmers, because now you find that your farmers are engaged and they know when they need to plant.
Well, you mentioned the Internet of Things, and right now we are living at a time where mostly half of the world, if we can try to approximate, is connected somewhere, and you are bringing the farming aspect into it. Maybe what advised you to go into farming specifically?
No, like I said, when you think about it, even in terms of the sustainability goals or Millennium Development Goals, is how can we really be able to feed our people. And when you want to drive impact and when you think about the motto of Microsoft is to empower every individual and organization in the planet to achieve more. And how do we then impact our societies in allowing them to be able now to get the most around what they do? So farming is just one of the use cases. What you think about what we provide is a platform that essentially is able to pick up all of this data coming from what we are calling things, and then be able to give you meaningful information out of that. So there are very many use cases. There is a case study in terms of what we've been working with the team from Pajeta on around. For example, today Pajeta is, I think, has the largest population of black rhinos in East Africa. So we need to ensure we protect that. So they are using Internet of Things on their perimeters to be able to track movement of animals, and if at all anyone is essentially cutting through that. That helps in aspects of security. So it's not only around agriculture, but there are aspects where you can actually use it in terms of monitoring animals, devices, cars, and all of those things, in essence, in terms of trying to provide a better service or maybe to be security.
Maybe if I can ask you, do you think that the future is now? The future is already here. The future that this what they were speaking about, that things will come. Maybe we'll be able to do things from a technological perspective. We'll be able to enable ourselves through this use of new technology. Maybe do you think the future is already here for us?
The future is already here, and to illustrate that, I'll give you a good example. So when you think about what is available today to a technology startup, so someone trying to start their business today in Nairobi, in form of technology, for the first time ever, they have the same, they have access to the same type of solutions and capability a startup in Silicon Valley has, because all of these technologies are available and are free in the internet. And when you start to think about IoT and even get to Internet of Things, you realize that everyone is learning together. So you cannot say that maybe the Americans or those types of advanced nations have a head start on us. So we are all starting at the same time, so that gives us the ability to be able to compete. So I would say the future is now, really, in terms of technology. One of the examples one of the speakers gave was you can get an IoT device for as little as 70 shillings. So think about that in terms of what it means for a farmer in Kenya and a farmer in the United States or any of those developed markets. So we essentially the future is here, and Africa is ready to compete.
You mentioned startups, and I think this will be a topic that we might just touch on briefly. Startups in Kenya, do you think they're getting the enough support that they need to enable them to get to maybe start off or maybe pick off the way they are needed to do?
So there's definitely quite a huge amount of support that's available to the startups. So for example, from a Microsoft perspective, working with our For Africa team, we do have support for startups, where we actually do in terms of even coaching for businesses, training for skills, and even working with them around technical expertise as they build their products. So definitely, when you look at it from a market perspective, the support is definitely there. It's just waiting for them to reach out, and we are able to engage and support them.
Where else are we likely to see Microsoft venture into, apart from the very few aspects that you have mentioned?
So from a Microsoft perspective, when you think about what we do, we provide a platform. And like I said, our view is really to empower all organizations to do more. So we are in various spaces, so be it financial services, working with governments. So you could range from healthcare, manufacturing, oil and gas, financial services. The entire spectrum is really open in terms of for us to engage.
Thank you very much, sir. Thank you. Well, I'll hand it back to you in studio for now, but that was just a brief on what is going down here at the Radisson Blue Square on the conference on the Internet of Things and also the intelligence systems. Back to you in studio.